This election is set to be decided by a handful of key battleground states. That's because the presidency isn't secured by who secures the most votes, but rather who wins the Electoral College.
The U.S. presidential election is a nationwide vote, but each time the race comes down to a handful of states that truly decide the winner, known as swing states or battleground states. Why is this? It's all thanks to a unique process called the Electoral College. Here's how it works. The U.S. is made up of 50 states, and each holds its own contest for president. The winner of each state earns that state's electoral votes, with a number based on population.
The number of electors that each state gets is directly related to their representation in Congress. Wyoming has one member of the House of Representatives and 2 senators. That means that they've got 3 Electoral College votes. By contrast, California, which is very populous, has 52 representatives and then 2 senators, so they have 54 Electoral College votes.
In total, the Electoral College consists of 538 electors, so a majority of 270 electoral votes is required to win the presidency. In 2024, some states are nearly certain to choose the Republican candidate, such as Texas and Florida. Others predictably vote for the Democratic candidate, like California and New York. The states that remain, those are the swing states, the ones where the race is so competitive, their electors could potentially be won by either candidate. It's voters in these states that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have focused their time and money on trying to win over.
We win Pennsylvania. We win this great Commonwealth. We are going to win the whole ballgame. It's such an important place.
And so, Wisconsin, today I ask you, are you ready to make your voices heard?
The states considered battlegrounds change each election. Usually it's 1, 2, maybe 3 states. This year, there are 7 states where either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris could win: Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. The Electoral College system also means it's entirely possible to win the most votes nationally, but still lose the presidential election. This happened in 2016 when Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but Donald Trump won the Electoral College, and therefore the presidency.
The Electoral College has come under attack by groups who will point to the fact that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in 2016, that Al Gore won the popular vote in the year 2000, and yet the Electoral College biased the outcomes in favor of the Republican. Now, this is not built into the system to favor Republicans. It just so happened that the Electoral College in those times did.
Supporters of the Electoral College say it forces candidates to campaign across a range of states instead of only focusing on big urban areas. And like it or not, this has been the process in the U.S. since 1787, and it plays a deciding role in who gets to sit in the White House.
Now, with the latest poll suggesting the election will be a toss-up, both candidates have been trying to reach out to as many voters as possible, including getting Gen Zs on board. Now, we'll be talking about this with France 24 senior reporter James Andre, as well as Jesse Dimich-Louvet, who joins us here. James, let me quickly ask you first, what are the strengths and weaknesses when it comes to 2 candidates in luring in this young youth vote?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, usually the Democrats do quite well with the youth vote, and it's obviously one of the main topics in this specific campaign when it comes to Kamala Harris is, of course, reproductive rights, freedom of choice. It's also, of course, the fact that she is not Donald Trump, which in this case is very important, and basically being more progressive, if you will, than Donald Trump. When it comes to weaknesses, we have seen protests on campuses across the United States when it comes to the policy of Joe Biden regarding Israel, and she could suffer from that. People basically wanting to punish her and not coming out to vote. Then again, that would probably be very marginal. When it comes to Donald Trump, now, he is obviously has a tougher sell, if you will, with the Gen Z population. But both candidates, have been going to podcasts trying to address this demographic. And what he's trying to do is appeal to young men who feel, I'd say, under attack, if you like, by feminist values or progressive values. And this has been quite obvious, for example, when he went to a podcast by Joe Rogan. But it's been a campaign theme, being, this man's man, if you will. And that is something that does appear to be appealing to a part of the young male population.
Let's speak to someone who's young. And from the France 24 newsroom, Jesse, you recently voted in a battleground state. What was that like? How did it work?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite easy, actually. I mean, I had voted in previous elections for Montana. This time, there's a law that states that you can vote in the previous address that you had in the United States. I went to school at Temple University in Philadelphia, right in the heart of Pennsylvania, where it all sort of matters right now, where the eyes are turned. And so I was able to register to vote via email. A couple weeks later, received a ballot that I printed at home, filled out. I had three choices: one on who I wanted to vote for senator, for a Congress member, and then also, of course, for the presidency. Ballots can be sometimes very complicated. Mine was pretty straightforward. I was able to drop it off at the embassy here in Paris, and a week later I got a confirmation that my ballot was received and counted.
So what efforts did the candidates make to reach out to young voters in the state of Pennsylvania, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, we, as James mentioned, a lot of rallies in Pennsylvania, specifically on college campuses like Temple University. We had Donald Trump come in June. Kamala Harris came last week with Barack Obama, Bruce Springsteen, really bringing out that star power. And we've seen it in the past. Kamala Harris was in Michigan, at the University of Michigan on Sunday, really trying to make that argument to college-educated voters. But I also want to make a distinction between college-educated voters and non-college-educated voters and what that can do in terms of the margin of people that are turning out to vote and also who they're voting for. Of course, the non-college-educated vote breaking much more towards Trump than it does for Biden in the past and for the Democrats.
James, before the summer holidays, we saw protests across several college campuses in the United States over the U.S.'s support to Israel. Given that the war in Gaza continues, has Kamala Harris done enough to distance herself from the policies of Joe Biden and say she'd be any different?
Well, that's a real question mark. The fact of the matter is she's come out and said, right, I want... I mean, she just did it a couple of days ago. She went
on Sunday, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. She went to Michigan to try and convince Arab American voters to vote for her. But her message is to say, right, we need a ceasefire. She says we need, to return the hostages. We need safety for Israel, and we want, dignity and peace for the Palestinian people, which has been her pitch for a few months now, trying to be, I'd say, to appear at least less in favor of Israel than Joe Biden was. But the fact of the matter is, when you look at the editorials actually across the Arab world, now these are not the American voters in a sense, but of course it's something that this demographic will be watching, is that a lot of editorialists say, right, she has been in power for the last 2 years. That administration has done nothing to stop this war. That's at least how it's seen, or has not succeeded. And what's going to be different now? And in a sense, some of them also, this is once again the Arab world, are saying, maybe Donald Trump will make something radical, different, and stop everything in the name of not wanting a war in the Middle East. Obviously, this is a long shot, but the fact of the matter is, will these people come out and vote for Kamala Harris? That is a big question mark. We saw that in the primary, 110,000 of them refused to endorse Joe Biden and to vote for Joe Biden in the primary. They wrote uncommitted on the ballots. Will these people come out and vote for Kamala Harris? We'll have to see. Of course, a lot is at stake.
Exactly. And I just want to bring you in, Jesse, because is that something that is topping voters' minds, your generation's minds, as they go to the polls? What is it? Is it getting a job?
Yeah, I would say a confluence of factors. It's abortion, obviously, for reproductive rights have been on the ballot now, second election. And I would also say student loan debts. Will Kamala Harris continue in her boss's vein of trying to cancel student relief? She has made a pledge to do so on her website. Trump, meanwhile, has really tried to make that appeal to the sort of the rejected from society young male who feels at a loss, sort of with this hyper masculine messaging. And the real question is will it work out for Trump? Because these are voters who don't have a history of going to the polls on election day or voting by mail, and so that will be sort of the big gamble, I guess, from Donald Trump's perspective.
And what can we extrapolate from previous elections, from what Gen Z has done in the past?
Yeah, so I mean, Gen Z has always sort of tend to vote more Democratic, but again, we're seeing here with Donald Trump's sort of messaging over the last months, going on podcasts like Joe Rogan, like Charlie Kirk, really trying to appeal to this voter. And like I said, with the college divide, if you look here at the numbers, we're seeing that margin dwindle, between 2016, 2020, and now to be seen in 2024. But I think that will be sort of a key thing to keep an eye on in this coming election, is how those other voters are going to break.
I think it's also interesting the point you made about the kind of voter Donald Trump is going after, this toxic masculinity, which we've heard on the campaign trail, because we also have Tim Walz. The Republicans have tried to take aim at him for measures he's taken in his home state.
Yeah. The famous tampon
Tim.
No, but the thing is, I think that what Donald Trump is trying to do is energize what he imagines or what he sees to be a potential conservative youth that's on the campuses. And he's been using organizations for this. The most well-known one is probably Turning Point USA. I don't know if you've heard of them, but it is a group of students who've been going around campuses, basically officially to turn out the vote, but who are actually conservatives and who are a pack who is behind Donald Trump, and who are trying, if you like, to energize what they see as a potential conservative young Gen Z base that's at university right now, or in college, or not even college, but they are very much aiming at colleges to try and, if you like, create this idea that there are two ideas that are, according to them, too progressive and that need to be fought, and that they're against cancel culture, etc. And this is something that does appear to have worked quite well. These people are well funded and they've got means. If you take Turning Point USA, and they can be quite efficient, and they've been working in all the swing states. So all these strategies, you add that plus the podcast, plus obviously social media, it could have an impact.
We'll see how things pan out. Jesse, James, thank you so much for joining us.